What's up, guys? It's Miracle Cat Corelli. This is episode 319 of my Cat Vibes series. And in this painting, we're going back to Nice after the previous painting, which was a portrait of Eva. This time we're going back to Nice and back to the experimental panels. As it turns out, I still had like some of them. This is yet another 1/4 inch thick panel. And this time I'm going really experimental because here I've glued onto this panel pieces, leftovers from different canvases, gessoed. And the idea here is I wanted to see what it's going to look like if you have like several canvases which are kind of layered. And what if I paint over this and make it into a painting, into a small painting? Will it look as if we're looking through a glass wall or something like this? And I think in the end you will see that it kind of looks that way. And that's exactly what I was going for. But anyhow, so this series of paintings called Little Nice, I continue it here and I'm deliberately kind of going back, switching between the biggerness and littleness. You've seen me paint that larger painting about Nice recently, 2 episodes ago. Here I'm going back to a smaller format once again to revisit this feeling, this sense of creative freedom and bordering the abstract, being impressionistic, expressionistic even, and bordering abstract, and playing with colors, playing with shapes, being very loose with shapes, but kind of trying to indicate volume and light at the same time and texture. And kind of being experimental, because I mean this is an experimental painting anyhow. You have all these layered canvases, so it's like no matter what I do, it's still going to be an experimental painting, you know what I mean? Conventionally, you would expect like a whole piece of canvas to be there, not several pieces stitched together. Well, not even stitched together, just glued together. Plus, I think I kind of like it. I like this vertical kind of type of composition. There was a time for quite a while in the past that I tended to paint or draw mostly horizontal compositions. And then after a while, I switched over to a square ratio. And then I kind of returned, right now I think I returned back to where I was when I was like 12 years old. Because when I was 12 years old, 12 and 13, something like that, and went to art school, I, by default, when I had a choice, when I could pick, I would pick vertical compositions for some reason. I don't know. I just felt that there's something to it. It's a narrower, taller kind of thing where you can capture more of, the vertical. If there's a sky, you can have some sky, And I mean, granted, you can have that same thing in a horizontal composition, right? But there is something to it. I don't know. It's hard to explain. Whatever. I have to say, though, that I have 4 canvases loaded, ready to go, stretched, primed, gessoed, which are they're all the same size. They're 18 by 30 inches. And I think all of them are going to be horizontal, and all of them are going to be dedicated to a Greek series. Specifically, they're going to be dedicated to the island of Samos. I don't know how to pronounce that properly. I'm probably mispronouncing that. I don't know how do you pronounce that in Greek. But the island is called Samos, and I have one of my followers and subscribers here on Instagram, Leonidas, who was kind to me, who was my follower for all of these years, and he had a vacation there, and I asked him to send me some pictures, which I will use as reference photos. So I'm going to paint real locations And I think for that series, I'll go for horizontal compositions, just, because I'm so stuck on painting vertical compositions in my biggerness and littleness series that I want to go the opposite way with the Greek series, and I want to make it horizontal. You basically see what I'm doing here as far as shapes and color and temperature. I'm trying to just capture a whole variety of things, and I'm bordering abstract at this point. I'm deliberately being very loose. And that's what I like about the smaller paintings, because it allows me to just throw some paint on and feel comfortable and know that I'm being experimental anyways. It's not a large canvas, it's not a large painting. And I basically leave myself no other choice but to be experimental. And adding some extra brush strokes just for the sake of color, just adding something which creates an illusion of detail without any real detail there. And that's another aspect that I think I talked about recently, is that one of the big reasons, the huge reasons why I am not really into realism is because I like the implication. I like to imply things. I like to sort of throw in something into the painting. Something that borders abstraction, so that when the viewer looks at the painting, their imagination fills in the blanks. That I find to be magical. I think this is so amazing. It's like reading a book. When you actually read a real book, you read between the lines, and your imagination, the whole novel, assembles itself in your imagination. And everybody's going to imagine their own thing. That's the beauty of it, as compared to a movie, which still depends, who's the filmmaker. If you're David Lynch, then you're going to film a Lynchian movie, which will leave a lot to the imagination. But if you're not David Lynch, and if you're just, if you're on the other end of things and you just don't give people much room for their imagination to roam, then it's going to be, I don't know, pretty straightforward thing. Anyways, my point is, I don't like necessarily straightforward things. I like implication. I like room for imagination, and I love these kind of things. And that's why I'm not realism is cool, but it's just not something that I'm into. That's what I'm saying. This painting eventually will show up in my Etsy store, just like a lot of my other paintings, and I'll make it available. With that being said, thank you for watching, and you will hear me on the next episode. Ciao.